This conference will now be
March
recorded.
10th at the Arlington County Democratic Senior Lunch. And our first guest today is Takis Karantonis, who's in his third term on the county board now. Oh, second term.
Oh, actually, technically, it's correct.
My third term.
Because I was elected in a special election, but it was a
Right.
very short stint.
And we've taken down our lunch orders, so we're going to give Takis our undivided attention. And I want us all to give Takis a round of applause, please.
So, that's a nice computer.
Thank you, thank you.
So thanks for having me again. I'm so happy that it's the beginning of March and the weather is good enough for people to feel already that we are in spring. However, this comes with a lot of requests and calls for action, right? As you all know, we have entered one of the decisive election year already with nothing less than a referendum on redistricting, which is already ongoing. This is election day is on April 21st. Don't forget.
Early voting has started.
But early voting has started.
And on Friday, the registrar mailed out 14,500 absentee ballot votes.
Correct. And I was number 232 in voting in this, voting yes. And I want to tell you that this was not an easy vote for me to take, because I am among these many Democrats who literally hate gerrymandering, who think that gerrymandering has been a major problem in our republic. It continues to be a major problem in our republic. However, our political adversaries, especially the president, thought that gerrymandering is a appropriate method to ring elections, straightforward. And he called for his willing fulfillment people in Texas, etc., to gerrymander in the middle of the decade their own states, because of course they are concerned about losing losing the House and potentially also losing the Senate. And they are concerned about that because they know, and that's interesting, they know that their politics, that their policies are not winning. The most amazing part for me is that until now, we thought that if the president thinks that his policy proposals are not winning, you would expect them to maneuver, to try to reach out, to see what's possible to say from the agenda, to negotiate, to find consensual solutions. However, this president prefers to rig the game, to basically win with this kind of tactics and shenanigans like gerrymandering. In response to that, Virginia is now one of the states that are forced to change the electoral map and to counter gerrymander to just, obtain a playing field, to still have a fair election on the national level. So this is a temporary arrangement. It needs to be approved through changing the Virginia Constitution in this case. But we know that in 5 years' time, we'll have a new census, hopefully under a different administration, a fair and straightforward census. Let's not forget that this administration, the Trump one, tried to rig the previous census as well. And so they do everything they can to skew the political map so as a minority can continue to rule over a majority. So to that effect, the General Assembly, the new majority of the General Assembly, the Democratic majority of the General Assembly, and the governor, we are sending a very powerful message to to the nation that we are not going to take it, and we are going to put everything we have to even the playing field and have fair elections this November and onward after that to the presidential. So that said, I want to point out one thing. As Virginians, when I voted yes to this referendum, I felt an extra responsibility as Virginia. Virginia is right now, this is not an internal matter for us. This is something that is projecting to the entire United States. Everybody is looking on Virginia, and for me, this is extremely important for everybody. We are voting for our republic, not only for our state. And, you know, it kind of rhymes with the 250th anniversary of this republic and the role Virginia played in creating this republic and, you know, making it the republic it has been until very recently, and still I think it's recoverable. So I call upon you to take it very seriously and to talk everybody. It's extremely important that as many people as possible vote to this. It's important because when we come back on this in 5 years to potentially correct that based on the actual numbers of the census, then that we have the same level of legitimacy and political, straightforwardness as we have today. It is very clear to make that statement, and I think that a big turnout is important. No, early voting is ongoing. It is very easy to vote early. Please do. It is right now at the courthouse, the usual courthouse. It's 9 to 5, I think, every day.
Extended hours start on the 11th.
And to our senior Democrats here, it cannot be overstated how important you are for the functioning of the local government, of the local democracy, of the national democracy right now. You're greeting voters, you are there, you're tabling, you're registering voters. This is an amazing service that you're giving to our democracy. So thank you for
January 6th.
Yes.
Attempt to steal.
Well, yes. January 6th was, the most brazen attempt. It was a coup, basically.
And it shows where his heart is.
And as you know, it's continuing because the president started his presidency by literally pardoning all these people, starting with the most violent ones, so the most criminal ones. Some of them are returning to be criminal, and as you know, this continues to be a problem. So back to our Arlington. It is budget season for us. It has budget season this time is very relevant again because the president has an overwhelming influence to what we are facing as a community at a very local level. It was never, the direct connection was never so direct. Our entire region has been suffering under the weight of the decisions of this new administration. From Dodge to today, so these last 13-14 months have been catastrophic for the entire region and for Arlington in particular. I don't need to remind you, many of you are former or retired public servants. It's not only the fact that tens of thousands of public employees have lost their jobs, that entire agencies have been dismantled. It is also that the administration has insulted, not only injured, but insulted public service per se. They basically are telling you that entire lives and dedication to public service to this nation is nothing worth. It has been kind of a partisan thing, etc. So this is unacceptable. But the bottom line is that almost 30,000 families, households in Arlington alone are feeling the consequences of that. Unemployment rate is now double than what it was before. It was very low. It's still relatively low. But what gives me more pause is actually the number of people, especially over 45, that have given up and are leaving the workforce, that they're not anymore registering even. We have seen the signs, the flags on the side of what this may mean. The demand for nutrition support, food support, is now double than it was back then. We are literally serving over 4,000 families at AFAC, just a stone throw from here. This is immensely problematic, not only because it's the sheer number, but also the cost and the persistence of this phenomenon. This is not just a spike, and then that the labor market somehow will absorb that. This is not happening. This is a persistently high demand on these services. Housing insecurity follows suit. If you look at our budget this year, I'm not kidding you. When I joined the board, the housing grant budget, so the help that we are giving to low-income and moderate-income households to be able to afford their rents here, this budget was somewhere close to $4 or $5 million. It is 17 today. I've not been in office for so long. This is like 5 years. This goes very fast. And that gives me a lot of pause because of a phenomenon that now is beginning to shape as what you are reading and hearing about the K-shaped economy, where the richest of the rich do very, very well. The upper middle class is still doing very, very well. But then there is a gap, and then the lower third of the population is not doing well at all. And this tends to solidify and be intractable over time. So one of the biggest political, since we're here in a political group, political challenges is this inequality, this persistent differential that rips, other communities can be ripped apart very easily, especially communities that have a different politics than what we have. Here we're literally I'm very happy to live in to be in a blue place, in a place with democratic majorities that care about this and care about the people who are in the lower segment of this K. This has consequences. Our budget, the federal government has been pulling the carpet underneath our economy. I told you that 30,000 households is not a joke in Arlington are affected by Trump. Not everybody has lost their job, but they are in fear of losing their job. That alone restricts their expenditures, etc. New businesses would be looking at this area with somewhat of a hesitance to come today, etc. Private spending in Arlington, as well as in the region, is down significantly, like 9% less or so. Even those who have a job are now more careful. There is an enormous reduction of purchase power, available purchase power for the small things like sitting here in a restaurant and having lunch. This means less employment opportunities for small businesses, etc. Add to that the absolutely wild 15 months that we have been going through with the persecution of immigrants. ICE is here, obviously, is in Northern Virginia. We have seen almost 200 plus people. They don't give us data, by the way. This is the most intransparent administration ever. But they have been abducting people right and left. We have seen the former now, and I celebrate that. We see the former Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security choosing an Arlington location for their, promotional quote unquote videos for cruelty. Here on Columbia Pike, that was last year. Families are very afraid. Our immigrant neighbors are terrorized, and that is not only those who have an immigration issue. This is everybody. The absolute majority has no immigration issue at all, but this administration has made it very clear that they want to convert everybody to somebody who's illegal. They have canceled all the legal visa programs. They have canceled TPS, the temporary programs that were protecting people who come from places that are, have civil wars and violence like Syria and Haiti, etc. All these are our neighbors. They are living with us. They are a significant part of our workforce. Think every time you go to an airport, there are almost 25,000 people working in hospitality in Arlington, between hotels and the national airport. About half of them lives also here. These are moderate and low jobs. These are actually jobs that are a pathway to the American dream, to the lower and middle class, and these jobs are under permanent, attack right now. So I could go on for a very long, monologue here. Our budget reflects all these pressures. As you remember, we have had already a economic problem to deal with, which is manifesting itself in companies occupying less office space. That doesn't mean that these companies are not doing well. They're doing very well, but they are more productive and they don't use so much office space anymore. So we have been trying to catch up with that and diversify our economy for at least the last 10 years. We have been very successful with this. This is why even if 1 out of 4 square feet of office space was empty and unoccupied, we still didn't feel, a equivalent impact here. But that doesn't mean that there is no impact. So this is a slow evolving challenge, but it's accruing and it's here. So this year is not different than last year, and probably next year we will see this tax base being challenged. This means something. This means that if we want to continue to invest in our schools, in our social services, in things that literally serve and support the lower part of the K, we need to ask the higher part of the K to contribute their fair share, so that you will see some shift of the tax burden to the higher part of the K. So to those who have more. And but this is not the only answer to that. We are looking under every stone in every program how to economize, how to stretch the dollar at this point. I have to say, over the last 5 years, we have been preparing and we have been calibrating our budget and our programs in a way that can absorb a impact. Now, of course, we didn't anticipate the Trump effect, but we anticipated some challenge. Remember, we had Trump 1. We had time to train. So because of that, we can manage, but make no mistake, it's very challenging out there. So this coming budget, this budget year, like last budget year, we were here, we were discussing that, is going to be a challenging budget year, nevertheless. Whatever the scenario is, we are discussing right now in terms of the loss of jobs on the public sector, so on the county part. This is more than 55 jobs. Half of them is in a program that's here, a gymnastics program at Barcroft, that, believe it or not, it has a constituency. And some of this constituency are kids that otherwise would have no access to this kind of recreation and athletics. So we have to always to think very carefully how to manage that and how to find alternative savings for that. Expansion is not so easy. Last but not least, and I can go on to take questions. Last but not least, remember what are our biggest investments? Critical strategic investments. Housing is a critical strategic investment. There is no bigger challenge than the housing crisis and the price of housing. This is regardless, even if we experience the equivalent of a local recession with Trump, housing prices are still going up. Rents are, at best flat. They don't continue to increase the way they have been going up in the last 10 years or so. It was, to me, I was flabbergasted. I have to say, I'm an economist, so sometimes the market surprises me as well. So sales of individual homes are up in Arlington 52% compared to last year. 52%. So we had a amazing supply-starved market before. So it was you hear realtors talk about low inventory. So there are not enough. Why? Because sitting on your home in Arlington is basically a winning proposition. Your value of the asset only goes up, and those who are you can sit out a period of high interest rates, etc. Now, this is up 52%, but the average price of sale is up 10.1%. So imagine in Fairfax, even in Loudoun, the average price has been flattening or going a little bit down. Here, according to the Brookings Observatory of the the regional economy, it is up 10.1%. So there is such a huge demand for the most expensive assets, which just verifies. It's another proof of this K-shaped economy where the upper 2/3 or 50% of the population is doing very well in the lower one. A household that is making more than $250,000. Remember, in Obama terms, these are the more affluent households, right? A household that makes this kind of money, just from the Trump tax cuts, will be able to pay almost 70 to 80% of their local property tax here. The lower ones won't be able to do absolutely nothing. So this is the kind of challenging environment we are right now, in which we need to correct with new policies and a new government. So,
yeah, so let's start the question period. I get the honor of having the first one. I agree with you completely on everything you said about the referenda, and I also support it. I also agree with you that gerrymandering has real long-term problems. To me, the big problem is myself and everyone in this room has fought for decades to build a sense of community and political community within Arlington. And this sort of severs that for a while. We're splitting up our team between two congressional districts and so on. But going on from that, Arlington has been very, very effective in lobbying and dealing with the state legislature.
Right.
You have great track record there, great team. What are you guys asking for, and what would you like to see happen in terms of diversifying your income sources through stuff that the Richmond can do for us?
So two things that the state really is important in this. Number one is to end unfunded mandates in schools, etc. Our schools need to. I mean, we are on the, compared to other Virginia jurisdictions, we have more money, so we can support our schools better. But that doesn't mean that the states should be so off the hook as they are today, because they are making decisions that we have to fund. These are the unfunded mandates on a lot of levels, including the compensation level for teachers and administrative personnel. This needs to stop. We have always asked for that, so we continue to ask for that. We will see how this plays out. The second, a very big one, is on transportation. For us and for the state, what is good for us is good for the state, and vice versa. We hope. We want to be on a reciprocal relationship there. So transportation, we are asking the state to first of all to allow us to reform and stabilize the way we pay for metro, for Humata and for transportation here. It is extremely important that we are asking basically to be able to identify the source of permanent dependable revenue in the form of an addition to the sales tax rate, etc., but something that we control here locally. This has this has two critical advantages. Number one is we are not going to have to beg the state every time, or reciprocally. Same for DC and for Maryland. We won't have to do that. We can depend on ourselves, and we are three advantages. Actually, second advantage, we are not going to roll it over to the taxpayer, to the property taxpayer, because this is really unfair. And the third advantage is, since this revenue source will be dependable, it will be also bondable. That means that Metro, in order to keep Metro today cannot bond absolutely nothing. For every single dollar, they have to come back to the source. And that's just not viable and dependable over long term. Metro is today a very, a completely different enterprise than it was 5 or 6 years ago. It's far better managed, has a future, and it's extremely productive. The net contribution of Metro served local economy to the Commonwealth, only to the Virginia Commonwealth's budget every year is about $1.5 billion. This is the money that the well-functioning transportation system actually shovels over to Virginia for everything that Virginia needs. So these are the two things, two major things. Then we have other issues, like, for example, our social services. We had a long conversation about mental health support, etc., etc. A lot of things, but these two are the big ones.
Okay. Are there other questions from the audience?
Yes.
Yes. Paula.
The issue of changing the form of Arlington's government, there's
Patrick Hobbs.
Yeah, past that. I haven't followed it closely enough or studied it closely enough, but can you talk about?
I can talk to you about what happened this year. So this year, the county board said that we will start a process with, an exploratory process. Previous to that, we will ask a legal, full legal opinion, and then also we'll have some, decent scholarly work done on the history of the form of government here, because it's a long and interesting history. And then, yes, very, very, very interesting. I will give you also a website where you can do some find some interesting background on Northern Virginia as you go on this. This is historyfortomorrow.org. History for Tomorrow. It's a contradiction in terms in purpose. So Delegate Hope has respected, and I'm happy to report that, has respected this process, and for now he hasn't brought a bill to this General Assembly. So this is something, and I agree with that. This is something that we Arlingtonians have to decide ourselves first, and then ask the General Assembly for any fixes to our the Arlington chapter of the Code of Virginia, if these fixes are necessary. So we will have a very robust, continue to have a very robust discussion. There are many opinions on that. This doesn't unite, it rather divides. I very much hope that we can compartmentalize this conversation and have a civic conversation about that while we have really bigger fish to fry right now with extremely adverse environmental conditions in our political environment, like we're talking already today. So this is a little bit on the parking lot until later this year. The idea was to have it after the primary election, or the primary goes to August. So probably this will be the second part of the calendar year that it will start, and we will time it as needed. We will see what comes up then. So I hope that you will be very engaged.
Takis has a hard stop at 12:30, but if we have
12:35-ish. Yes.
One more question from the audience, please. Yes.
I was on one of the first gymnastics teams.
Yes.
Very sad high schools no longer had you. I was talking to a mom at the farmer's market over the weekend. She's got two sons at the bar cross center, and she was pleading to keep that open.
Right.
It's like the only gymnastics opportunity in Arlington. The private ones are fairly long ways off, long ways. Is that something you consider?
Oh, absolutely. We are trying to dive as deep as we can and to find way. We always try to find way. Nothing of what is there is disposable. Okay. There is a famous, easily disposable, I should say. There's the famous saying that says there is no such thing like a good budget year. There is no line item without a constituency. And I would add the third one. There is no line item that at some point a community need and a community demand has actually contributed to this line item to materialize. There are very few line items that, historically kind of are not anymore current or they're obsolete. There are very, very few. These basic, and I understand more than ever, more than everything, that the gymnastics community is a community before anything else. There is a social element. There are kids, there are parents, there are, in booster clubs. There is a lot of texture that a social fabric that we want to keep. There are also demographics and difficulties of the type of, affluent kids have options, right? They can pay their way to their hobby or to their sport. Kids that come from lower income families don't. We don't want to leave them without options. So the work of the local government is always to balance all this and find solutions. Also if there is a blow that needs to be taken, to soften the blow, to flatten the landing approach there, not to do harm, avoid doing harm. So I'm all invested in that. I always did that. The beauty of local government, this is why local government is so different than higher, more abstract levels of government, is we feel the same pain immediately on the street. I will see, like you, I go to Margrove to play soccer. So who do you believe I'm stumbling upon every single time? So it's very close to us. That's what I have to say at this point. I'm trying to find a way that keeps the core of the program still, manageable, and from the point of view of the money that's needed for that, also sustainable, right? Remember, we're talking about 1 million out of 1.6 billion. But as you remember, Dirksen, a million here, a million there. At the end, you talk about real money. So, okay. So both are true.
Takis, you want to just spend 1 minute summarizing us and telling us where the website is for the budget process and so on?
Yes, it is. When you go to the arlingtonva.us website, just you should try that. We have an AI chatbot on the website. It's called AVA, Arlington Virtual Assistant. It's on the right. It's a little red dot or symbol on the lower right corner of the website, and you just click it and pull it up, and you say, I want to know more about the budget of fiscal year 2027, and it will answer with a narrative. So it will tell you where to find that. That's like a search function. It's the same thing. And then it will give you the links, and that works. So, or in the search prompt, budget or budget fiscal year 27, and then you will land to you will find everything that's there. At this point, this evening, this afternoon at 1 p.m., I have to be at our work session on the Department of Environmental Services, which is basically our public works, but it does also transportation, etc. I call it fondly the Department of Everything Under the Sun, because it's literally that. And so there are more work sessions to come. You can always tune in to listen a little bit about that. I find the presentation always very interesting, so do that. And if you have questions, any question about anything you see, I mean, how do we fix potholes, or how what is going to happen for seniors, for example, because this is a significant discussion. We started this budget season with a presentation of the demographics of Arlington that are now moving towards more towards an aging population. This is significant. This is important because services, you talk about gymnastics, with whom gymnastics is competing for money with 55 plus, for example. That's not a secret, it's true. People who play pickleball, who are part of them, not everybody, but a significantly higher number is over 50. They are asking for space. The answer is not yes. The answer will be, let us see what we can do without displacing others, but still there, the pressure is there. So a lot is important for all of us here on this. Yes.
You must have thought about increasing fees, but keeping that. I believe I've seen when I've been on the site that there are, there's a place you can check if you can't afford to pay the higher.
Right, we do that. And by the way, we finally.
Some of us could probably pay more.
Yeah. That's true. However, local governments, by law, we have to cover our costs. So that's number one. Now, covering costs doesn't mean the program has to cover costs. So we have to balance between those who have to. But going beyond that, just because something like private companies do, that's not easy to do, because everything that's beyond begins to be a tax. So I cannot say, oh, here I have 4,000 pickleballers, and the pickleball fees now I'm going to be double that, because most of them can pay that. I'm not a private company. We are your local government. We want to make that. We want to make a recreation asset available to everybody as long as we can cover the cost. Gymnastics used to have before the pandemic, a cost coverage of 150%. Gymnastics asked for to reduce the fees, which we do dutiful, we did in 2017. But today it's 60%. Aquatics is at 90%. Soccer is at 110%. So they're different. And then you have minority sports that will never be able to cover the cost. So, but that doesn't mean that they have to be extinct from the face of our program.
All right, well, we promised to get Takis out of here by 12:30, so let's give
Yes,
him a round of applause.
I'm on my way. Thank you so much for gathering and staying engaged. I will be with you, I hope, towards the end of the budget. This is a real proposal. I would be happy to sit down and talk about finances in the economy of the county as an exclusive thing. If you are interested, I would love to do that. I always love to do that. But for me, this is understanding the challenges, because all challenges are at the end political. They come down to choices. And we Democrats, we make choices that benefit a certain part of our population that is the majority, and it's not the privileged majority, right? And we ask for the more privileged majority that can afford to compensate for the burden and to be considerate with that and live in a better society as a result. So I would like to show you that, because now it needs to be a question. So
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, so the schedule for the rest of the afternoon is, up next, we'll have James DeVita, and then we'll have David Kennedy as our third speaker. And I'm going to ask James to come up, and I promise we'll all chew silently while you're talking, so our mouths will be empty in time for questions. And this is being recorded and will be posted.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to Bob and the other members of the Senior Democrats for giving me this opportunity to address you. For those of you who don't know me, I've been a practicing lawyer in this area for 46 years. I've worked as an immigration lawyer, helping immigrants, trying to fight against organizations like ICE. I've also been a civil rights lawyer, and in that capacity, I filed a lawsuit on behalf of 7 Black Lives Matter protesters. I took that case all the way to the United States Supreme Court. I think a lot has changed since the last time I addressed this group last year. As you're well aware, we had an election, and in that election, I got 9,300 votes. That's more votes than J.D. Spain got when he won at the county board. It's more votes than Patrick Hope got when he won as a delegate for the state, and it's 2,000 votes more than my opponent, Matt DeFerrante's ever gotten in a primary. So I consider myself at this point in time to be the front runner. I think it's my election to either win or lose. One issue that I wanted to bring to your attention is an issue that has just sprung up recently. The county board, is my understanding that they're going to be taking up a decision as to whether or not to ban signs, political signs in the median. And that's an issue that really impacts me very significantly. My political signs are different. Most people's political signs say things like "Re-elect Takis." I remember that one from last year. My signs are different. I use my signs to communicate my positions on the issues. And I knocked on thousands and thousands and thousands of doors last year. Everywhere I went, without exception, I tell them who I was, and they say, "Oh yeah, I've seen your signs." People are reading the signs. They love the signs, and they love the signs primarily because it helps them make decisions. It tells them my position on the issues. And I don't know how many times people told me that they voted for me simply because of what they saw on my signs. And with all due respect, I think that the reason the county board might be thinking about banning them is they want to shut me up. They know that my signs are effective. They know that people read them. They know that people get information about them, and they know my ideas are winning. And I think it's unusual and extreme that you could have median signs for 20 years and nobody said that they were a problem. But suddenly I go from 2,000 votes to 9,000 votes and it's a problem. And I think it's transparent what the county board is trying to do. With respect to my opponent, Matt DeFerranti, I would ask you to consider the following. Can you name one thing he's done? Can you name one legislative achievement he's accomplished? With all due respect, I look everywhere and I see deficits. The county has a 20% commercial vacancy rate. 1 out of every 5 businesses in Arlington is vacant. We need to bring new business to into Arlington because it funds everything else. If you want to do something to help the homeless or to help people who were put out of work by the federal government, we need the tax revenue. We need new business to fund everything else. And that's one thing I would like to do is bring new business to Arlington, especially Columbia Pike. Columbia Pike has been a mess for the last 3 years. The construction has just about wiped out a lot of local businesses. And we need to develop the Pike. There's no reason why the Pike can't be any more vibrant and commercially successful than Wilson Boulevard or any other boulevard in this county. The other thing I've noticed with respect to the county is that there are vacancies in the police department, the fire department, and the sheriff's department. Each of those agencies has a 20% vacancy rate, and that affects public safety. We've got to fill those positions to bring Arlington back up to the point where it would provide effective public safety for the county. The last problem I have with Mr. DeFerranti is his position on the missing middle. The missing middle will not, let me repeat that, will not create affordable housing. All the prices for the new units are well over $1 million. At that level, the only people who are benefiting are real estate developers. What it will do is it'll overcrowd our schools, it'll overwhelm our sewer and drainage systems, and it will make parking virtually impossible. Just imagine putting a 6-unit condominium building on your average street in here in Arlington. Where are you going to put the cars? Where are you going to put all the kids? What are you going to do with all the runoff water? Plus, it destroys the trees. It takes out the green space that we enjoy. I think that my candidacy at best represents change. I think it's time for change in Arlington. I think we don't need to have a county board that votes 5-0, 5-0, 5-0. We need to have a different voice, a different perspective here in Arlington. And the primary is now August the 4th rather than June 16th. I have a website available. If you do like what you see, certainly would appreciate a vote. And I want to thank you for your time.
Okay. Just to get a little more background on the history of this, because there have been people who have had problems with the yard signs before. In 1991, Arlington adopted a yard sign ordinance, and it was largely, I think, under the influence of the local realtor community. The Republican Party challenged it. They won in that they took in both the circuit court, and it went up to the 4th Circuit, and it's captioned, Arlington County Republican Party versus Arlington County.
Yeah.
And they won in the 4th Circuit, and the ordinance was declared null and void. And then County Board Chair Jake Bassett appointed a bipartisan commission consisting of Warren Nelson and I for the Democrats, and Richard Samp and one other person for the Republicans. And we came up with what is now the current ordinance, which has been in effect now since about 1993 or 94. So it's not like it's been a non-controversial thing, and it's not like it doesn't have political dimensions. Some people would argue that as the sort of overwhelmingly incumbent party, we almost have a responsibility to provide a affordable forum for all political viewpoints to be communicated not just the orthodox viewpoint. And I personally agree with that, and I think the case law nationwide sort of upholds that too. So I appreciate everything you said, and I think we probably end up on the same point on the substantive issue, but I don't think it's fair to say that this is an ordinance just to target one particular candidate.
Well, I'm sorry, did you want to add to that, ma'am?
I would. I mean, I don't want this to devolve into a discussion only of signs, but the issue with signs is pollution. They're put up in places where they aren't allowed, and there's no enforcement and control. They're put up along streets that are state maintained roads where they aren't allowed. Nobody takes them off. And then those of us who are volunteers who are trying to put them out and keep them, in the right places, and the pollution is just insane, and the waste of that, they drive me insane. I hate them, and it's nothing to do with you.
All right. Well, let me address both of those points. First of all, let me address your point first, ma'am. I'm very, very conscious of the limits as to where signs can be placed. I only place mine on the streets where they're allowed to be placed. I do see people, last year, some of the Republicans were putting them along Route 50, and they're not supposed to be there. People will put them where they're not supposed to be. I don't support that at all. I'm very conscious of exactly putting them out on time, when they're allowed to be put out, and I always pick them up at the end. So I don't think I create any unnecessary litter. And then the other thing I was going to say is that I think the primary problem I have with trying to ban them is that I think it impacts my First Amendment rights and the First Amendment rights of any candidate who's running. I mean, I'm communicating. I don't just take it as an opportunity to put my name on a sign and just say elect me. I actually communicate information to people. They get, I communicate my position on the missing middle or on the hiring police officers, whatever. And people really appreciate it. I'm not lying when I say, honest to God, every time I go to somebody's door, they'll say, I've seen your signs. And that means that they're looking at them, they're reading them. One complaint I had was you make them too wordy. We have to slow down to read them, which I kind of made me chuckle because in some ways that's a good thing because they're paying attention. On the other hand, I've decided to make them a little shorter so that people whizzing by can actually read them. But I think bottom line, I'm trying to communicate, and I don't think people realize how difficult it is for a candidate to communicate. For example, people send out emails. A lot of people, if they see an email from somebody they don't know, they'll flush it. They'll just get rid of it. The same thing with political mailers. If they're not interested, it goes in the trash. But the signs are there, and they stay there, and they communicate a message. And I'll tell you another reason why I know they're effective. People steal them. I put 500 signs out last year. 200 of them got stolen. I think that's another indication that these things are effective. The people, whoever's opposing me, know they're effective. They're trying to artificially change things. They're trying to fight dirty by stealing them. And I think, pardon me for saying this.
No, that's not happening. If they're being stolen, it's probably the Republicans.
Well, it
They were
might be.
stealing all the other signs, so I don't think you should feel quite so targeted.
Well, I know. Let me just be blunt. I know. I guarantee you, because I'm out there walking the neighborhoods. Takis did. I think he had like a few signs stolen, but my signs, I had 40 or 50 stolen the very first night I put them out. And I know that there are people who oppose my stand on the missing middle. I think it's them. No offense. I don't know who it is, but I think the bottom line is what I'm trying to tell you, and hopefully you can accept this, is I have to be able to communicate. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I have to be able to tell people what I think, what I'm running on. I see politics as a competition between ideas. Maybe some other politicians' ideas are more effective or attractive, and they get elected. But don't cut me off. Let me communicate. Let me get my ideas out there so that the public can make a decision. Well, reasonable restrictions, I'm not opposed to. I mean, if that's what they end up deciding, I don't have a problem with that. But to totally ban them, I can tell you two things. One is I think it's anti-democratic. I think it's a violation of the First Amendment. And I'll tell you this very, very clearly and absolutely unequivocally, I'll sue them. I'm going to file a First Amendment lawsuit. I'll seek an injunction. I am going to do whatever I can to preserve my ability to communicate and other politicians' ability to communicate with people. And the other thing I would point out is I don't see the downside of these signs. Nobody's saying, well, we got into accidents because we were looking at them. You know, if you don't like politics in general, and you don't want people to put out political statements in general, I can see why you'd be opposed, but I don't see how they hurt anybody. All they do is communicate.
So the proposal is to remove all.
I don't know what they're doing right now.
Okay.
As far as
Process.
they are thinking about it.
They've had a public hearing for one of the advisory.
I also was wondering, you were mentioning, you know, the vacancy rate for businesses. I was wondering, is that more a issue of work at home or AI or some mix of both?
It's probably a whole lot of that. I mean, a lot of people never went back to work after the pandemic.
Right.
And, you know, rents in Arlington, you know, for businesses and for people are kind of high. And I think it's a combination of all of that. But, you know, like I said, I want to do things for people. I want to be able to help the homeless. I want to be able to help people who are out of work. I want to be able to help all kinds of people. But the bottom line is, whether you like business or not, it's what drives everything else. The more business we have, more tax revenue we have, and the more people we can help. And we're just in a position where you can drive around Arlington and you see all the empty storefronts. And you see, you know, in my building alone, I work in a law office. I would say like 30 or, you know, 25 or 30 of the offices are right around me are vacant. You know, I can see it on my own floor. And we've got to do whatever we can to attract business to Arlington. I would go out and solicit business owners directly and see if I can bring them in. You know, it's what drives everything else.
Next question. For James.
How do you propose bringing more business?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is, like I said, I would go out and solicit them directly. I'd get a list of businesses, start calling them, do you want to come to Arlington? And the second thing I would do is either eliminate business taxes or greatly lower them for as an introductory type of thing. If you want to come to Arlington, we'll get rid of business taxes for you for a year, let you come in. Once you know, get them to commit to coming to Arlington for 5 or 6 years, but, you know, lower the taxes for a couple of years to get them in the door. Whatever we have to do to bring in new business. Any other questions? If not, I'll say thank you very much. It's nice to see you all. And
Want to remind us of your website?
yeah, just if you just type in my name, it'll come up. See James DeVita County Board, it'll come up. And the election's August the 4th now.
The primary election.
Primary election's August the 4th. And I sincerely want to thank you. Certainly it's a pleasure always coming here and seeing Mr. Platt and the rest of the senior Democrats. And I thank you for your time.
So the distribution of cookies has been temporarily halted until we can get it clean. Okay, we just got the clean utensil. I'll go around and pass that out. But meanwhile, I want us to welcome up David Kennedy, who's a candidate for Congress in what will become the 7th Congressional District.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Is that one in the north or south?
Yeah, well, I have a really great map here
Okay.
of what it looks like, and I'll put it on so folks can see it here too. But yeah,
It's a crab-shaped one.
I've heard lobster, I've heard scorpion, I've heard crab. So pick your poison.
Republican shape.
So yeah, everyone, my name is Dave Kennedy. My website is davekennedy07.com. The 07 is for the new congressional district. And yeah, if you study that lobster, basically it's North Arlington and cuts west to West Virginia. In the middle, it dives down kind of in between Charlottesville and Richmond. And basically, I think Takis said it splits Arlington in half. So North Arlington will be part of the new Congressional District 7, and then South Arlington is still Congressional District 8, and Don Beyer will represent Congressional District 8. A little introduction to myself. I came to the area, the DMV in 2006, and 2006 through 2025, I worked for an organization, a nonprofit, an association of colleges and universities.
Which one?
Council on Governmental Relations, COGR. We partnered with organizations like AAU, APLU, a lot of organizations that deal with federal research. That was my area, was federal research grants.
I spent 4 years on the Cornell board.
Oh, really? Yeah, Cornell. I know a lot of folks from Cornell. They're a strong member of our group. Yeah, we represented about 200 research universities across the country. And so my focus was, I always say I was kind of a troubleshooter, working between the universities and the federal agencies that funded research. So I spent a lot of time working with NIH, National Science Foundation, DOD, OMB, Office of Management and Budget. So I kind of got a real sense of, in my 20 years working, how the federal government retired January of last year. And, you know, I had some of you might recognize my name. I ran as an independent for Congress in 2024 against Don, and got to know him. And he's been helpful to me thinking about this step. And I had no intention of running for Congress again. And I didn't want to go against Don. And then redistricting came up. And so I called him about a month ago. And he graciously gave me we talked for about 20 minutes and basically said, you know, Dave, if you want to run and you're willing to work hard in this open seat district, you got a chance. And so I said, you know, I'm going to do it. And my platform, I guess I would call it kind of bread and butter, multi-generational. And I speak to issues that I know well. One is unaffordable childcare. I have a grandchild who will be going to kindergarten in August, and I do taxes for his mom and dad, and I see what they earn, and I know what they pay for childcare, and roughly 15% of their income goes to childcare. And, you know, they're working parents doing their best. So when I say multi-generational, I also look at my future and some of what you're living right now, and that's the sustainability of Social Security. And 2032 is what they are calling doomsday. And if we don't pay attention to funding of Social Security, I can tell you right now, and I think it's probably true for all of us in the room, you know, our benefits could be cut 24%. So we need to be paying attention. We can't keep kicking it down the road. So that's an important issue for me. The third issue I would just say is being nicer. I mean, I think we've all seen, you know, how people have been beaten down, whether it be federal workers or whether it be immigrants or whoever have been beaten down this past year. And I think just being a voice for those who are getting punched in the stomach is really important. And that's something that I bring to the table. I didn't come prepared. Obviously, I didn't come dressed for the party. I just met Bob outside. He said, come on in, Dave. And so I really appreciate you all giving me a few minutes to introduce myself. And if you have anything you want to talk about.
Well, and we do appreciate you coming on super short notice, the shortest notice possible. But I would like you to spend just a couple of minutes talking about like how your career has prepared you for the role in Congress.
Yes. You know, a few people ask me, why Congress? Why not the school board or
Dog catcher.
probably least qualified for dog catcher. But I have a real passion for federal issues, and that's what I know. That's what my job for 20 years here in the DMV was focused on federal issues. It's what I pay attention to. To be honest, I think, really God bless y'all who run for local office, because I think you really need to be in the weeds of really minute day-to-day issues that people care a ton about. Not that people don't care about the federal issues, but I just don't have that skill set to be running for local county board. I think my skill set is much more focused on federal policy. And I actually bring, I had an opportunity to go to seminary as a part-time basis from 2018 to 2023. I went to the Wesley Theological Seminary up in Northwest DC, right next to American University. And so I kind of bring a theological, one of the things I use in my campaign material is love neighbor, just like that, it's kind of just like the golden rule. And so I think bringing in, I'm all for separation of church and state, but I do think there's some just basic principles of all the great religions of the world that can help bring us together. So I feel like I bring a policy and a theological background that's, somewhat unique, and I think can talk to people at different levels.
Well, in your day-to-day job, did you focus more on the appropriations process or on the
implementation policy day-to-day? Well, both. Our organization was more working with the agencies and the implementation of federal programs, though we had sister organizations that were on the Hill dealing with the appropriations. We were always paying attention to federal funding of research. And, again, if you look what the president had proposed last year for the science agencies, they were literally 50% cuts. So now, and through the great work of, some of my old colleagues, we're all those federal research agencies. Now, granted, they're not getting even cost of living increases, but they are getting, at least they have steady budgets.
You seem to have a little touch of that new Democrat in Texas.
There you go.
Yeah. A little bit of that doesn't hurt, given how frankly evil the MAGA has become. But what was your education?
So I went to my undergraduate I went to Lehigh University. I grew up in northern New Jersey. So I went to Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. That was an economics degree.
Okay.
And then I moved out to Chicago to go to graduate school. I went to University of Chicago and I lived there for 20 years. That's where I raised my family. I did public policy. And then
which is less conservative than
yeah, I took some, I tried to pay attention to the Chicago School of Economics when I was out there. And, I am not a economist per se, but I feel like I know economics and I know the Chicago School well. And then, so I lived in Chicago, so I stayed in Chicago for 20 years. And then again, in 2006, I had this opportunity to come out here, and that brought me out to the DMV.
So what were you doing in Chicago?
Chicago, I still worked in higher education, but I worked in consulting. So I actually worked directly with universities.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go, I traveled a lot.
Help them with the funding process.
Again, it was all their federal money. Yep. All their federal grants. Yeah. So it actually prepared me well to come out to DC and work more in a policy perspective.
Yeah, I'm a chemist, so I understand
Yeah.
how important
Yeah.
that is to
Yeah.
funding research.
Yeah.
Why don't we open up the conversation at the other table? Yes, Paula?
You mentioned you ran as an independent.
Yeah.
And now you're running as a Democrat.
Yeah.
Are you a Democrat?
I'm a
or
de-
not?
I am a Democrat. So I'm going to tell you the unfiltered story is why I ran as an independent. So this is so leading up to 2024, which we knew we'd had the midterms, I knew I was going to be retiring, and I knew I wanted to do this. And as I studied it, I knew Don was a formidable opponent. And I said, if I really want to be involved, unless I catch serious lightning in the bottle, I'm going to be done on June 4th after the primary. Because plus ramping up and getting 1,000 signatures, that's a lot of work. It's knocking on a lot of doors. And I just said, if I'm going to really run for Congress and be able to participate, I need to run as an independent, which would give me, I wouldn't have to run in the primary, and then I'd get to run in the general election in November. And I just wanted to participate. Again, when I would, the couple times where I got to be on the same stage with Don, I would say, you know what, I'm with you on almost every position, but at that point it was a new voice. I just said, I would like
Are you comfortable saying how you voted over your life?
I voted for, I can tell you, I can count on this hand how many times I voted for Republican. When I was in Illinois, I voted for Jim Edgar as a very moderate Republican once for governor. And there may have been one other time. I don't think it's such thing as public records, because I think our votes are private. But I have always supported the Democrats. I can't say 100% because I voted for Jim Edgar once, but 99.9% of the time. I do think it's important, though, with that said, I do think independent voices are really important. I don't know if you may have noticed the Republican from California, I think his name is Riley. He has now declared himself an independent. He'll still caucus with the Republicans. And by the way, I was on public record when I ran saying I would caucus with the Democrats. So that was, even though I ran as an independent, I was very public that I would caucus with the Democrats. But he said he's going to take every issue on a case-by-case basis and not blindly vote with the Republicans. Well, yeah, I appreciate that comment. But again, I think his whole position right now is saying, you know what, redistricting in California, if I don't do this, I'm gone. So it's kind of like him throwing out his lifeline for his political career.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there other questions? Yes, Jim.
So you thought theology has a role?
No. Well, no, but I said separation of church and state is for sure. I think the messages of the great religions like love neighbor has a place in politics. And I think we need a lot more of recognizing our neighbor as a human. And I have knocked on doors, and it is pretty obvious when someone is not on board with where I'm coming from and some of my political views. And I know some of these people are hard to talk to, but I think we need to find a way to talk to folks. I tell you that I think the best week of 2026 so far was Snowcrete And the reason I say it is because it forces us to help our neighbors. And I think, I don't care when I'm helping someone shovel their snow, or in that case, crack an ice. I don't care what their politics are, and they don't care what mine are. And I think we need to be able to connect at that level.
Where do you physically live?
I'm in North Arlington. I'm up by, best way to say it,
Westover?
2 blocks from Metro Diner, Metro 29.
Okay, so.
But right behind, the pie store? That neighborhood right behind it, Glebewood, that's where I live. What's that? Is it, well, I voted Glebe School. Okay, it's Woodlawn. Okay. You know what, I was reading the legislation for the redistricting, and our new my new district, some of you, I don't know if you're South or North Arlington, but I was reading the new District 7, and I was trying, it's about a page long. And so, Arlington, and then it goes into I was trying to figure out, because they were referring to, obviously, counties, but they also referred to voting districts as, so it wasn't precincts or wasn't polling places. It was voting districts that defined.
Managerial districts, essentially. Like when you get into Fairfax County, they have a number of magisterial districts.
Yeah.
Like Mason.
Right. But anyway, I was just, I'm trying to, there's a lot of terminology: voting district, precincts, obviously counties, polling places. And anyway, if you look at that legislation, it's interesting because it has our whole, a page worth of what the new Congressional District 7 is defined as.
To me, the most interesting thing is that, both Jim Moran and Don Beyer have been blessed with the old 8th district, and they could probably take whatever position they want on any issue and Congress deals with just about every issue under the sun, knowing that, the populace of the 8th district would sort of support them, even if 1 or 2 people thought that's sort of a weird vote. But when you get into a more carefully balanced district, such as this one, where you're representing the suburbs of West Virginia,
Yeah, right.
It's going to be a little more perilous to chart your course. And I was wondering how you felt about that.
I actually look forward to it because I think it does come back to being able to talk to folks from very different political stripes, and not just political stripes, culture, socioeconomic. I mean, Arlington, I love Arlington, but, politically we're very, we're 75, maybe close to 80% blue. So, I mean, again, we're very diverse socioeconomically. I mean, we have folks who are living on the margins for sure. But I mean, I think going out to rural is kind of exciting. And I promised my wife we could do a few road trips out there, spend the night in somewhere nice, and then I could go campaign the next morning. So it'll be a 2-for-1. I'll get to campaign and maybe get to see some Shenandoah Valley and some nice spots.
Would you describe yourself as a moderate or a progressive, or?
I'd have to say I probably lean more towards moderate. Yeah, that would probably be. I mean, I am, and again, and this was kind of fun running as an independent, and I do think there's something to say. To some, and this back to this Representative Riley from Republican, and I know, we know he might be doing it for political reasons, but I think there is something of taking each issue on its merit, and it's voting in lockstep. Obviously,
I think most people would describe themselves doing that, but where they end up landing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Do you have a website? Do you want to tell us your website?
DaveKennedy07.com. 07 is for the new district.
Okay, well, let's give him a round of applause.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. And I do appreciate you all. I think everybody is, everybody's got me on, helped to get me on the ballot, 1,000 signatures. And this is actually interesting also. I know I have till May 26th, but I really want to get it done by May 1, because May 1 is when we have to show up at the district headquarters. Is that the right term? Where they collect, where you have to deliver a declaration of candidacy and all your signatures, and you need all 1,000. Now, again, I can do May 26th, but if I get there first on May 1st, I'll be first on the ballot. So I'm working for May 1st. Now, I was told by our party chair for the district that
We don't have a party chair.
I know we don't. The one who's I think he's the Fairfax County that where Waukesha is. But he said if like 3 people show up, and this would happen in the past, they have to flip a coin to see who
Better that than a battle to the death.
to see who gets listed first. So.
Well, thanks again, Dave.
All right, thanks everyone.
So next month, we're meeting on the second Tuesday, and we've already lined up as one of our speakers, Susan Cunningham, who hasn't come here since the selection process. And
If I can help in any, my phone number there. If anything comes up.
yeah, I'm sorry, I designed my computer cable to trip people up. So next month, we've got Susan Cunningham, and I'm trying to book in the congressional candidates. A lot of people have limited availability until the end of the legislative session, which is at the end of this week. So there were a lot of people that I think our people today have all been stellar. Thank you guys for coming. But we have an even bigger pot of people to pull from after the end of the session. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you next month.
And thank you for organizing, Bob.
Sure.